So of course we'd like to first acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and then recognise their continual contribution to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Sitting in a steep rugged topography and backdropped by the classic Australian bush, the paradigm for this project, Leith Park, is one of bringing the medium density urban model to a place where it has really existed previously. The buildings are informed by an abstraction of their surroundings, the topography, the patterns of the environment, the textures and the colours of the landscape. Leith Park is a thriving independent community nestled in St Helena, some 4 kilometres from Greensborough in Melbourne's outer fringe. It's operated by the Old Colonists Association of Victoria, who are most famously known for their heritage property, Leith Park in North Victoria, which will be the subject of the next presentation. It's typified by low-rise units throughout the site, a significant topography. So my site, for example, through here has a 15-metre rise from east to west. There's 118 independent dwelling units on site, and then the property is anchored by, I'm just going to try to do a pointer here, can I do that? And anchored by an aged care facility to the upper edge of the site to the west. I'd like to acknowledge as well that this property development was originally had a town planning application by Williams & Bogue, so we received the commission post town planning application. There was 25 units on the site in a significantly wooded site with eucalyptus, so we were sort of bound by the endorsed town planning approval of Williams & Bogue, if you appreciate, but of course also what they were bound by was the retention of significant existing eucalyptus trees. So with our commission we were able to expand and get an amendment to the town planning permit to achieve 42 units on the site, so kind of a reasonably significant uplift in sort of approximately the same footprint. The buildings are arranged in simple blocks throughout the site to reflect that and pick up some key ideas, obviously, which I've just spoken about there. The retention of the eucalyptus trees, quite a significant asset on the site. An approach to open air corridors, so a more casual approach to living. Notably as well, the original town planning, some of the buildings are very similar in arrangement. For example, this one, the town planning arrangement from Williams & Bogue had north-facing villas with an open air circulation behind it. We thought about them being markers in the landscape. Again, the landscape is a significant point, so there's views to the property up the hill, but also views out to the vast vistas and also the immediate village of St Helena. And obviously the introduction of open verandas or circulation paths allowed us to achieve a number of passive design abilities. So the buildings are arranged as simple blocks in the landscape. They're characterised by sheer walls, 2 or 3 stories in height, but punctuated by significantly expressed balconies at the corners. Really tried to articulate those as outdoor rooms, so making sure the occupation outside the property was important. They reach upwards, like the gum trees, tall and abrupt, resisting the urge to recess or hide away, particularly at the higher level. And in fact, a number of the, you'll see some of these elements here. There's opening windows up top, so you actually can almost reach out into the treetops in that location. A number of significant sort of approaches, obviously the landscape, which will be sort of a recurrent theme through the property, through the presentation, sorry. The introduction of colour, which obviously very much drawing on the bright colours of the indigenous landscape, the colours perhaps that's not always seen, but also some more contemporary, perhaps more urban themes, particularly this artwork from Geoffrey Smart I was particularly interested was the foreground of the landscape and the trees, the buildings or the built environment, passing through that in time, I suppose, but also the vistas in the distance and the indigenous, the long view, but also the idea that perhaps we could reflect the landscape from the building as well. So there are a number of panels throughout the building and the window compositions that are black and glossy, so they kind of reflect the treetops as well. So the play of the trees on the facade, a significant sort of element. The low buildings give way to interlocking metal elements, roof forms in flashes of flowering colour, a scattering of odd-shaped bricks at lower level. Also pick up the natural landscape and play with the shadows. The colour selection was worked again out of the subtleties of the indigenous bush. So as we move into the building, we have used the brighter colours on the exterior, and in the interior rooms, which are the balconies, the softening, sort of a more muted, faded version of the eucalyptus. Like the Australian scrub, each building appears to fall over and knit itself into each other. Sharply angled roof pitches extrude and rebate into the facade. Cold metal gives way to warm timber, and amongst it all, flashes of the contrasting colour. The project was built in 2 stages. Stage 1 being downhill, 3 of the buildings, A, B, C, obviously, just to be quite original, which have now been adopted as Arcadia and picking up the natural bush. And then stage 2 is the larger building to the top. There's a variety of units, both 1 and 2 bedroom units, and obviously there was, where possible, an appropriate focus towards the north. That was 6 minutes, you said that? 2 minutes ago, yeah. Landscape is the key to this bushland village, architecturally abstract and naturally abundant. The new native planting is extensive in garden beds designed by outlines softening the edge of the buildings and carving Mirandian footpaths connecting buildings and neighbourhoods alike. All of the buildings have 3 versions of entrance, one at the lower car park, which lifted access, one with a fully accessible path, and then one with stepped access as well. So there's both a choice to enter the individual units, but also to move through between the dwellings. The balconies and the veranda spaces are quite significant. Obviously, clear pathways through the building, particularly in an aged environment where dementia is starting to become prevalent, an issue. Landscapes inside the stairwells, capturing the shade and changing light of the day. Doorways with the letterbox outside, the drop box, so the message every day that you get to tap on the door and see how the residents are going. The waiting spaces within the balconies. The apartments, of course, have been occupied, study spaces, simple kitchens, picking up the Australian palette again. The outdoor rooms immediately adjacent, so if you see that to the right of that photo, which have been readily occupied, of course, by the delighted residents, making it very much their home. And again, bringing the landscape in. So again, the landscape theme for us in this project was the immediate, the village in the long view, very much resident in the existing village, but making sure we have that opportunity to present that to them. So that is my 8 minutes, hopefully. Thank you. Thank you.